Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhav 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 Radha Madhav Jai Radha Madhav Jai Om Sambhat Paramahamsa Parivrara Sarasri Srimad Bhagavatam Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaudiya Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Ramacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Si Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Madhava Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Sri Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Maya Padam Ki Jai Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Sangha Veda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande All glories to the assembled devotees, glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru Gauranga, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. This morning I read from Sri Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Text number 42. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Satu samsravayam asa Satu samsravayam asa Maharajam Parikshitam Maharajam Parikshitam Prayo Pavishtam Gangayam Prayo Pavishtam Gangayam Paritam Paramarshibhi Paritam Paramarshibhi Satu Samsravayam Asa Maharajam Parikshitam Parihopavishtam Gangayam Paritam Paramarshibhi Satu Samsravayam Asa Maharajam Parikshitam Prayopavishtam Gangayam Paritam Paramarshibhi. Ladies? Saha, the son of Vasudeva. Two, again. Samsavayam, asa. Make them audible. Maharajam, unto the emperor. Parikshatam, of the name Parikshit. Praya upavistam, who sat until death, without food or drink. Gangayam, on the bank of the Ganges. Paritam, being surrounded. Parama Rishibhi, by great sages. Translation: Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn delivered the Bhagavatam to the great emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the banks of the Ganges, awaiting death, without taking food or drink. Please repeat. Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn delivered the Bhagavatam to the great emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death, without taking food or drink. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder chair of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. All transcendental messages are properly received in the chain of disciplic succession. This disciplic succession is called parampara. Unless, therefore, Bhagavatam or any other Vedic literatures are received through the parampara system, the reception of knowledge is not bona fide. Vyasadeva delivered the message to Sukadeva Goswami, and Sukadeva Goswami, Suta Goswami received the message. One should therefore receive the message of Bhagavatam through Suta Goswami or from his representative, and not from any irrelevant interpreter. Emperor Parikshit received the information of his death in time, and he at once left the kingdom and family and sat down on the banks of the Ganges to fast till death. All the great sages, rishis, philosophers, mystics, etc. went there due to his imperial position. They offered many suggestions about his immediate duty, and at last it was settled that he would hear from Sukadeva Goswami about Lord Krishna. Thus the Bhagavatam was spoken to him. Srimad Shankacharya, who preached Mayavad philosophy and stressed the impersonal feature of the Absolute, also recommended that one must take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for there is no hope of gain from debating. Indirectly, Srimad Shankacharya admitted that what he had preached in the flowery grammatical interpretations of the Vedanta Sutra cannot help one at the time of death. At the critical hour of death, one must recite the name of Govinda. This is a recommendation of all great transcendentalists. Sukadeva Goswami had long ago stated the same truth, that at the end one must remember Narayan. That is the essence of all spiritual activities. In pursuance of this eternal truth, Srimad Bhagavatam was heard by Emperor Parikshit, and it was recited by the able Sukadeva Goswami. And both the speaker and the receiver of the Bhagavatam were duly delivered by the same medium. And the purport. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Parisaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitya Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nevishesha Shandavari Sarasatarini Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn, delivered the Bhagavatam to the great Emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death, without taking food or drink. So here's the perfect situation of the appearance of the Srimad Bhagavatam this particular time, because Emperor Parikshit was a great devotee of Krishna. And Sukadeva Goswami is also a great devotee of Krishna. He had, by the destiny, then Sukadeva showed up at the place where Parikshit Maharaj was sitting in the bank of the Ganga, and he'd been given notice of 7 days of life in this life. So then he immediately gave up all the responsibilities and went to the holy place, bank of the Ganges. Ganges is considered the representation of Krishna, liquid Krishna. It's a tirtha, wherever you are. So he sat there, and then, because he was the emperor, then everyone came. Emperor of the world, that was at that time. So everyone came, all the other great kings, saintly kings, the sages, even some demigods came. So Narada was there, so many people were there, all the best of the inhabitants of the world. They came to hear, and they came to advice, because he said, no, what's the very best thing to do? We've only got 7 days, what's the very best thing to do? And, there's all kinds of yogis and gyanis there also. So they were having the debate, and then it was decided on amongst the leaders there. It means the greatest people in the universe, greatest authorities in the universe, practically at that time, decided that to hear the narrations of Krishna would be the best thing to do, which is what Parikshit wanted. So this is and by providence of Krishna's arrangement, then Sukadeva Goswami came. Because they were going to decide on a speaker. But when Sukadeva Goswami appeared, that was settled. Sukadeva Goswami immediately would, because Sukadeva Goswami was transcendental. You could see by his appearance, physically. He was like Krishna, actually. He looked like Krishna. He was dark. He was like Krishna. He was effulgent, beautiful, dressed in the 4 directions, long curly hair, children were following him and ladies were following him because he was completely indifferent for any varna or ashram, but so attractive. So, and they knew he's the son of Vyasadeva, and how, he has no agenda. He's completely renounced. He left home. He wouldn't even. He left home immediately after taking birth. He wouldn't even take birth till Krishna. He was so powerful that he wouldn't come out of the womb till Krishna assured him that he wouldn't be affected by Maya. So he was a perfect speaker. So this is the parampara system, the qualification of the speaker, the qualification of the hearer. And Prabhupada mentions if it doesn't come through the parampara, your knowledge is not bona fide. Of course, it's knowledge, same knowledge, but it depends on the how you're going to interpret that. Like I was in a temple. There was a little argument on the devotee on the book table, and there was another young boy, his age. They were having a discussion, a little argument. The boy said, he was saying how you got to be in parampara, the devotee. Somehow it came up, and I was just there and I was listening. That the other boy said, "No, you don't. Why should you? If I tell you the knowledge which is in Bhagavad Gita, and you follow, that's enough. That's it." He said, "No, it has to come through the parampara." I said, "Why?" He says, "Krishna's knowledge. If you follow it, I'm giving it, you're following. What's the difference?" So you don't have to take initiation or be a guru as such, as long as the other party is agreeing to follow. It's Krishna's knowledge, but it's not exactly like that. Like we heard yesterday in his Jayapataka Maharaj's class, so Shiva's Pandit, when he was indirectly offended by Devananda Pandit, who was reciting Bhagavatam. So he's reciting the Bhagavatam, the translation. Srivas Thakur was passing by. He went there to hear. And Srivas Thakur got some ecstatic transformations, and he began to weep, which wasn't, the other people in the class thought it wasn't making a disturbance for the class. So they removed him out of the class. So he was feeling ecstatic symptoms by hearing, but he was, as Jayapataka Maharaj admitted, he was quoting the shloka. But when Mahaprabhu ran into him one day, Mahaprabhu chastised him severely. This is Devananda. He said, you're teaching Bhagavatam, you're speaking Bhagavatam. He said, but you don't have a pinch of the piety needed to understand Bhagavatam. Then he told him how he had made an offense to a great devotee of Srivas Thakur. You didn't object when they took him away. He said, you don't know Bhagavatam. You don't know what's in Bhagavatam. You don't actually the message of Bhagavatam, which is to reawaken and establish one's eternal loving relationship with Krishna. That's what the Bhagavatam is. It starts like that. Srimad Bhagavatam kicks out these cheating religions. Dharma Pujita Ketiva. It kicks out all the cheating religions referred to as Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, which are considered also in other scriptures perfections in life. If you're pious, you're religious, you will get good karma. Right? You will get opulences naturally. You have faculty to enjoy. And then ultimately you can get liberation at all. But it says Srimad Bhagavatam is not concerned with that. That's not the actual position of the eternal position of the living entity. So therefore it won't be satisfying. We're not supposed to be in this liberation. We're referring to this monistic liberation, Kevala liberation, where you lose your separate identity, your own identity. That's not the purpose of our existence. What's the use? What's the use of going through all this practice and study and trying to understand, or having the goal that eventually there's nothing? Doesn't make sense. And nobody likes nothing. You only like nothing when you're really suffering. Then nothing is appealing, because it's a relief from everything. That's why people commit suicide. They're so frustrated that they take their life. And rather, it's so unbearable, whatever the trauma they're going through, that they're willing to give up their life just to finish that trauma. So this is the same with this type of becoming one with the Lord, so-called one with the Lord. It's just like that. Committing suicide, you're giving up your own identity because it's intolerable or it's too difficult to understand the truth. It's too troublesome. These are jnanis. You want to make an end. You realize that the material world is not actually a happy place. And so then just to switch off life is a form of escape, which is popular in this age where people get frustrated. But it's not why we exist. There's a reason why we exist. If we came from nothing, and then what is all this going on now? Where did this illusion come from if there's nothing anyway? Even if you say it's illusion, where did it come from? It can't come from nothing, and then you go back to nothing. Why? What is this interim period that we call life or existence manifested here? You can't deny it. It's a reality. Although it may be, it's temporary, but it's something. And just to terminate this doesn't make any sense, and then become nothing again. Just doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to do such a thing? So there's a reason why it exists, and that is to be known. That is to be understood. Otherwise, if we don't know the reason for our existence, how will we know how to behave? How will we know the difference, what is right and what is wrong? Right? If we don't know who we are, what we're supposed to be doing, why this creation is here, then we won't know how to act, behave properly. As you see in modern Kali Yuga. They don't know how to. There's no standard. Right? So therefore you have an election every 4 years or every few years to change leader. Get some better ideas or something fresh. Because there's no standard so according to the time and people changing and the modes of nature, then people will swing this way and that way. And then the leader will have to promote that kind of thing so that he'll get the votes to satisfy the people. That's democracy, the best form of government, right? Of course. But it's not, because, if you got a democracy made up of fools, then what is the benefit? The blind leading the blind. The general public have no direction, and even the leaders, they don't have proper direction, ultimately. So what will be the result? They will all fall in the ditch. Is an analogy like that. So it doesn't make sense. But what we get from the Bhagavatam is the actual, your identity will be revealed to you. Your purpose of existence will be revealed to you. And we know that is the purpose of our existence is to increase Krishna's pleasure, to assist Krishna in his pleasure. He's expanded himself into everyone and everything for pleasure. Why does he expand himself? Why does he do it? He must have a reason. There's a reason for the creation. Creation is proof of existence of God. One existentialist, it means a nothing person. Tell you, I'm very thoughtful. But he asked Srila Prabhupada, they arranged a meeting. But as soon as Prabhupada came in, the first question he asked, why anything? Why anything? What did Prabhupada say? Pleasure. Immediately, pleasure. That's what we want, right? You can't deny it. Everyone's looking for pleasure. You're looking for relief and pleasure. So that's obvious. Everyone can understand that. They want pleasure. And pleasure includes absence of pain. So that's a fact. That's a meaning of our existence, pleasure. But that pleasure, the highest pleasure, any form of life you'll get some pleasure, but the highest pleasure, unending pleasure, is when we're engaged in activities to increase Krishna's pleasure. Recognizing him as a center, that he's the actual supreme enjoyer. And we're secondary enjoyers. You can't get any more enjoyment than trying to fulfill Krishna's desire for enjoyment. That's the highest perfection of existence when you're doing that. And there's affection for Krishna at the same time, of course. Love for Krishna is there. Because Krishna is a reservoir of pleasure, he's the ocean of pleasure. So when you're at the ocean, nothing's lacking. How can you get any more pleasure when you're at the source of pleasure? So Krishna is that. He's a reservoir of pleasure. He's the source of all these things. So that's what Bhagavatam is presenting. But if you're not in the parampara, you won't understand that. There was a similar conversation 500 years ago with Haridas Thakur was there with some learned people. And so they chose the topic, because Haridas was there, the topic of the holy name. What is the benefit of chanting Lord Vishnu's name? So they were coming up with their different opinions that by chanting the holy name you can become free from all sins. Wow. By chanting the holy name you can all your desires will be fulfilled. By chanting the holy name you can get liberation. So the debate was going, and Haridas said, no, you're all wrong. He said the real fruit of the holy name is love of Krishna. You'll get Krishna. So it's the love of Krishna. And of course they didn't all accept that, unfortunately. Especially one. He had to get a big reaction before he came to his senses again. So it's like that. The parampara, and Krishna tells you how to, tells us, he gives the instruction in the Bhagavad Gita, that's ABC of spiritual life, spiritual understanding. Krishna says that by me the Vedas are to be known, and the Vedas are to know Krishna. This is the whole purpose. He states that. From me come knowledge. Krishna says, I give knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness. I give that knowledge. So it's Krishna's knowledge. Where did it come from? What is this knowledge? It's Krishna's knowledge, spiritual knowledge. We can't invent spiritual knowledge. It's Krishna. It's already there. It's Krishna's knowledge. So it's mine. From me come knowledge. I give the understanding by which you can come to me. Bhagavad Gita, I give the understanding by which you can come to me. There's not another way. You surrender to Krishna. Krishna says there's the direct process, immediate process. You surrender to me. I'll take care of all your cleaning. So you don't have to do your yoga and gyan and pious activity. You don't have to do that. I'll take care of that. I'll get rid of all your simple reactions. You just surrender to me. I'll take care of it. But if you can't accept that, then you're different ways. You follow the path of gyan, yoga, or karma to purify your existence. It'll purify you, but it'll take many, many births. So they're there. They're mentioned there, but not in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very unambiguous. It's directly saying we're not concerned with any kind of other process. Dharma. Don't forget it. Don't worry about dharma. Dharmic. Huh? Don't worry about the piety that you'll get from it. Don't worry about the artha. Don't let that disturb you. Don't let the opportunity to enjoy disturb you. Don't even let the opportunity of becoming free from the material world disturb you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just surrender to Krishna. I'll take care. Have that faith. So that's Krishna's proposition. If you can't do that, then you need purification, then you accept these other. But it'll take many, many births. Dangerous. So then Krishna says, Tadvidi pani patena. You approach the self-realized soul is in submission, in service, and then inquire. So those two things are there also. It's not a mechanical process. It's not a information exchange. The parampara is in the exchange, in the parampara, there's a metaphysical particle that is being transmitted. The spirituality within that framework of submission, inquiry, Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu Smart, etc., all those things. This is through this attitude, through these activities, in the proper attitude, then the actual Krishna is revealed. He reveals himself. Not another way. Especially in Kali Yuga. So why don't we accept what Krishna says? Save a lot of trouble, a lot of births and deaths. So if you don't do it the way he says it, then you don't get Krishna doesn't give you his complete self. He gives you a part, because everything is Krishna. There's a system there. It's a parampara. That's what it means. It's a science. You follow like this with this mentality, and then you'll get the essence of what it actually means. And if you don't follow this parampara, it's not bona fide. Your knowledge is not bona fide, Prabhupada says. It means if you don't know the purpose of life, then you'll invent a purpose of life. What is dear to you, you'll think that going to Swaga or Pitraloka may be the purpose of life, or just being successful in the material world by performing pious activities, karma mimamsa. You just perform good work, you'll get a good result, then you can live happily all the time. Or you want to have some, enjoy the mystic powers, or become free from the material world altogether. That's suggested in other scriptures, not in Bhagavatam. It's suggested that. Not only suggested, it's outright. The goal of life is to get to the heavenly planets. The goal of life is mukti. Kevala Mukti. Because, if you don't, if you can't accept Krishna, the process of Krishna consciousness, either you can't or you won't, you don't have enough piety, or you don't want to, you don't have enough mercy, whatever it is, then you take another path. But if you don't know if you don't actually understand that purpose, then say your goal of life is to reach the heavenly planets or mukti, then that's what you'll get, even from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is hard to interpolate. But even from the Srimad Bhagavatam, you can get other things. So whatever you think is the actual goal, then you will translate the Bhagavatam towards that direction naturally. So then you get cheated. You're not the Parampara system. Your knowledge is not bona fide. It means you get something else, because he's leading you to something else, not to pure bhakti, to understanding our relationship with Krishna. Because like that, as we're saying, Srimad Bhagavatam is not very ambiguous, but other scriptures are very ambiguous. Krishna likes it like that also. So what is the actual purpose? So you can argue. There's a debate, right? The personified Vedas. You can read that chapter. Very intellectual. But they're having a debate, all the scriptures. And so they're presenting their different conclusions. And I forget. But in essence, it's something like, then they ask Krishna, who's right? So Krishna says, well, if they can explain it logically, you'll have to accept it. Right? They got the scripture and explaining it logically, he said, then you should accept. So Krishna was cool. He wasn't saying, he was leaving it open also. Why didn't he say, no, it's all nonsense, just surrender to me and I don't waste time? He didn't say that. Because some people, they don't want to surrender to Krishna. So for those people, then he's got all these other ways to gradually bring them forward. We didn't come to the material world to surrender to somebody else. We came here to be the center, to be worshipped. That's our prime idea. So that concept is being the controller, the enjoyer, is very, very deep rooted in the heart. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Mahaprabhu with that discussion, the discussion, because he said to Mahaprabhu, he said, you took sannyasi too early. He said, you're so beautiful. All the women everyone's attracted to you. He said, and the way you're behaving, you're mixing with common people, you're dancing and chanting, and he said, this is not proper behavior for a sannyas. I don't think you've had much knowledge of the scripture. This Mahaprabhu, he defeated the Digvijay when he was 15 years old. So he said, maybe I should teach you the scripture, Vedanta Sutra. So out of politeness, Mahaprabhu agreed. But after 7 days, and the Bhattacharya said, you haven't spoken a word. You're sitting there like you're observing a Monavrata or something. You haven't said anything about what I'm saying, so I really can't understand whether you're understanding at all. Do you understand what I'm saying? If there's any doubt, just speak up and I'll explain what I mean. So Mahaprabhu said, I understand the sutras, they're perfectly clear, it's self-evident. He said, but the way you translate them, you're telling something else. Sarvabhauma was flabbergasted. He said, then you can explain. This is Sarvabhauma. He's like the most revered person in Puri. You know, the king's at his feet, all the sevaks serve him in the temple. Sannyasis come and learn from him. He teaches sannyasis. He's a big giant. You know. So then he asked me, then how do you? Then Mahaprabhu was interpreting the Vedanta Sutra, and he agreed. Bhattacharya agreed. Yes, he said, I never heard the Vedanta Sutra presented in such a simple way. Never heard it. Because mainly they follow this Shankaracharya's Bhashya, Mayavad. So they're word juggling, they screwed something out of it, it means this. So you're taken away from the actual meaning. So the translations are okay, but it's the purports through the translations that are actually misleading. So if one's not in parampara, that means his goal is not to surrender, to love Krishna and surrender to Krishna. So that's what he'll take out something different, because that's what the scripture is aiming at, especially Bhagavatam. That's the direct meaning. But because that's not your goal, you're unfortunate, you haven't received that understanding or mercy, or you don't have that, whatever it is, something there missing. Then you're bound to interpret it into what you think is the purpose of existence and the meanings that the scripture is given. So here was, this is considered an ideal situation because Parikshit was a great devotee of Krishna. And he actually left home. He had that in mind. I just want to hear the pastimes of Krishna. So everyone came. Then Sukadev came. And then the exchange is perfect. Parikshit surrendered, humility, and the right candidate. So then the spirituality within the external gathering of the sages and the Ganges and the speaking and hearing, then the purpose of that's carrying the spiritual message with the eternal servants of Krishna, and we should serve him with love. That's what the message is. In other words, you can experience Krishna directly through this medium, like Shravanam Kirtan, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam Vandanam. So this is the Shravanam Kirtan, what is going on. So because both were qualified, both the speaker and then the result was perfect. Then at the end, Parikshit said, great, let the snake bird come. Whoever is going to come and bite me, take me away. I'm ready now, because I'm just sold out. I know I'm just going to go directly back to Krishna. So this is the characteristics of the purity and the qualities of these pure devotees, their behavior and their mentality and the actual understanding of the real purpose of existence theoretically, and then experiencing that purpose of existence by Krishna gives that. I give you the understanding by which you can come to me. Krishna gives that because you're following what he's saying. You're doing what he says. You can't do it another way. So therefore, then he reveals that revelation is the Sambit and Haladini. Krishna reveals. He gives you his, touches ours, becomes magnified, then that's bhakti, that's prema. So that's how it works. He's a person, you see. You're not gonna sidestep. It's his idea. This is how it works. You follow that, I'll give you this is how you get it. Not another way. Otherwise, you've got to come to this at the end. Even if you go through yoga or jnana or whatever, you still got to come to this point. Krishna says that jnani, after many, many births, he finally understands that it's Krishna we're talking, it's Krishna, the goal. Then he surrenders to Krishna. But there's many births. But this path is the path of bhakti is direct. This is Krishna's, and that's Krishna's recommendation. He doesn't recommend all those other things in the Bhagavad Gita. He recommends manmanam and sarvadharman. He's saying these things. In case if you can't do that, if you can't surrender, if you can't always remember, then this is a possibility. You can do these things better than nothing. You've got to do something. So do some yoga, meditation, charity, whatever. But he's not recommending it. This is only for people that are unwilling, can't surrender to Krishna, so for some reason. So this is the mystery of the parampara. The spiritual essence comes through that, and we get enlightened with that. Scientific. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Sukadeva Goswami ki, Maharaj Pariksit ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Mahāprabhu Bhaktavinda ki, Hare Hare. Yes, Prabhuji.
If the people get in contact with some this bogus interpretation of Vedic knowledge, do they get any benefit or no? If the person came in contact not with parampara but with some bogus interpretation of Vedic knowledge, does they get any benefit or no?
They'll get benefit because Krishna's a super soul. You know, it means they're interested. Otherwise, why are they going to? They're interested in spiritual life. They're interested in understanding the truths. So the benefit's there, but it's unfortunate because, it's rare that someone is going to God. It's very rare. Out of the 4 classes of people, the inquisitive and the jnani, they're less. Those in distress and need, they're the majority of people. That's the main reason why people turn to God. And when things get good, then God slips away, right? You see in modern history, when people are pious, then the empire flourishes. When it flourishes, there's a lot of sense gratification, life's easy, then they forget God, then it collapses. Then everyone gets down on their knees and prays to God, from the piety, from the Dharma comes Artha, and then from Artha comes karma, the enjoying thing. So, but someone who is actually going to God, for whatever reason, they're all pious people, but those other 2 are especially pious. So it's rare that someone's going to God. Out of all the living entities, it's only the humans that actually get the opportunity. But even amongst humans, there's not so many that are actually interested in going to God. And then again, when they go, they don't know where to go because there's so many people to mislead them. So many gurus, so many incarnations, so it's a problem. But if they're sincere, the Super Soul will help them if they're actually sincere. But it's unfortunate that you're naive people, you go to the first person, you think he's a sadhu, or he's got a lot of followings, so you'll accept that. And there's so many scriptures for those in the mode of passion, those in the mode of ignorance, and the mode of goodness. So there's a whole kaleidoscope of so-called spirituality out there, and New Age gurus, but no one's saying surrender to Krishna, practically. Who is saying? So if you understand at least the purpose of life, Prabhupada said, how do you know who is a bona fide guru? One who is addicted to Krishna. But if he's not, but which gurus are saying you're the eternal part and parcel of Krishna, you should serve him? Which gurus say that? Out of the Vaishnava Sampradaya. No one's saying that. They don't know. But they're posing. So those people, the Mayavadi, those people are misleading. He said the atheists, he said that they're worse than atheists. He said because Chaitanya Bhagavat, the atheists, they may go to hell. He said, but those other people not in power, he said they're worse. He said because they go to hell and they take their followers with them. So they're even worse than atheists. So it's unfortunate. But if they're really sincere, this Super Soul will bring a devotee to the path. It's quite bewildering. If you want a spiritual life, and where would you go? You go to the internet, right? You type, you put in spiritual life. You get a kaleidoscope. So many things. How will you know which one to take? You go to Rishikesh, right? Holy place. Yeah, there's hundreds and hundreds of ashrams. Which one are you going to go to? Yeah. Dozens of different teachings, different systems, and different goals. So if you come into contact with a pure devotee, that's considered good fortune. So we are considered fortunate sitting here. My Pradhan. Good fortune. What else was it? Unless you're born in a family of devotees, that's different, like some of us here. Madhava. Milan Madhava. Ganga. Milan. Ganga Madhava Milan. He was born in Mayapur, in the Lotus building, right here, in a flood. So his mother was staying here. She delivered him during the Ganges was here. The Ganges came and touched Krishna's feet. So Jananadas gave him the name Ganga, Madhav Ganga Milan, meeting of Ganga and Madhava. So he only knows Krishna. Even though he goes to university, he's not happy at all there. Good fortune. But if, that's good fortune. If you're born in a family of devotees, you get it from the very birth. You don't, that bewilderment is not there. But from others, it came from other God-forsaken countries, like Malechadesh and Kashadesh. But if you're sincere, Krishna will help. He will send a devotee. Yes.
If your devotional service is such a rare thing to make that existence, then for us practitioners, how do we become qualified to receive that?
Well, it's rare in this age. In Satyuga, it's not rare. Everyone is a devotee in Satyuga. Satyuga, even the government are devotees. It's only rare in this age. People in the previous age, they were pious, right? Duryodhana was pious. He wasn't a very nice person, but he was pious. Hiranyakashipu and Kamsa, they were pious. Otherwise, how did they get such power? So people were pious before. Kali Yuga is different. It's all out the window. So it's good fortune. Good fortune. To me, it's like the piece of wood, a plank that is floating on the ocean with a hole in it. And there's a turtle, a giant turtle who lives on the bottom of the ocean, and he takes a breath every 100 years. he comes up. And as he comes up, that plank is floating with the hole, and he puts his head through and takes a breath and goes down. Every 100 years in that vast ocean, he's going to meet that. What chance is that? That's the chance that you meet a pure devotee, according to the Bhagavatam. It's rare. But then the pure devotees are merciful. They go out and look for us. They canvass for us. They make themselves available. They create our good fortune, even though we're not really qualified. You're not really looking. Maybe not even looking. But they'll somehow or other come take some prasadam. Come and dance with us. Everyone likes to eat and dance. Sing, come to our party. Somehow or other. Somehow or other. We live in evidence of that. It wasn't our piety that brought us here. Right? A lot of us. In China, there's no word for God in the dictionary. Huh? So it wasn't our piety that brought us here. Huh? So many Chinese and Russian devotees, they were brought up, this generation were brought up with in atheistic teachings. Huh? They're coming. The mercy of the pure devotee. So we just continue, follow their instructions, and we become parampara. We become the guru in parampara. It's the same thing. We follow what they do. Then you're the example. You're the guru. All you're doing is following what the parampara are recommending. So that's the system. You become part of the parampara, then you're going to attract other people. But it's rare. And then when you take to it, it's even more rare to get pure, unalloyed devotion. Right? It's very rarely achieved. That is another characteristic of pure devotional service. So material world, Krishna says, it's not such a good place. In Kali Yuga, anyway. So good fortune. It boils down to good luck, good fortune. Right? What else was it? Means you met a devotee, maybe your parents, but either you come into contact with a devotee or a book from the devotees. That's the main reason why we come. Mainly, right? So that's mercy. To take part in the mercy mission, the Sankirtan mission, that's what it is. It's just mission of Sankirtan. Nobody's qualified. Kali Yuga. Everyone is Jagai Madhai. Now Mahaprabhu's, the beauty of Mahaprabhu's thing is that his process is he's not looking for qualification. Qualification is not on the table now in Mahaprabhu's land. That's not a criteria. It's not a prerequisite qualification. Because who are you going to find who's qualified? So that's out. The qualification is out. So you don't have to worry about purification and becoming qualified and all that stuff. You just engage immediately in devotional service. Chant Hare Krishna. Tell others about Krishna. Do some service for the Sankirtan mission. That's all. Then you see what happens when you leave your body. But to become a pure unalloyed devotee, we don't see it. We don't see much, right? Amongst these generations. Very rare. We're most unqualified in Kali Yuga. But next birth, you can go back to where Krishna's appearing in the material universe. You get all those qualifications there. Ashakti, Bhava, Prema. These are the qualifications you want to experience love of God. So you'll get them in your next birth. That's mercy. You've done some service for the Mahaprabhu, a little service, for his devotee. Mahaprabhu was very pleased. Or a devotee of his devotee, or a devotee of his devotee. Mahaprabhu was very pleased. Come back. You done a little service for my devotee. Rare thing. Rare to meet a devotee, rare to serve a devotee. You're so special, come back. Not many. There's not many people who do it, who want to go, who serve in the Sankirtan mission, right? Not many. A handful of people, come back. You'll go back to Godhead next lifetime. Otherwise, who's turning to God? Who wants to know God? Who wants to love God in this Kali Yuga? It's only a handful of people. Out of 8 billion, what do you think the percentage is? People who actually want to go love God and go back there. A handful, right? Small, very small percent. So they're doing some service, assisting, preaching, then come back. Not a big thing, a handful of people out of billions and billions of living entities, even out of 8 billion human beings. It's not much. Come on. Ticket here, special pass. You can go in, take this pass. The whole thing is mercy. Has to be. Has to be. What collocation do we have? Thank you very much. Jai Sri Prabhupada ki jai.